G'day humans, Chris Stead here. Today I'm doing a review of a fully automatic coffee machine. This full bean to cup milk frothing behemoth, the Delonghi Eletta Explore. Let's jump in. Now those of you who are familiar with my channel will know I've done a review of quite a number of automatic coffee machines, well, fully automatic coffee machines and manual coffee machines over the recent past. And most recently I did the Delonghi Eletta, so I've got a separate review of that. Now this is kind of the next step up from the Delonghi Eletta. So you're getting more features and more flexibility and this bigger footprint. And we're going to explore right now, no pun intended, whether or not this is the right fit for your kitchen and the right fit for your needs. So let's jump into my Delonghi Eletta Explore review. And as always, I like to start with the price because that's the context around what everything is based. Now, this recommended retail price, this is the titanium variant. So titanium is in color, not in terms of titanium, but titanium color. There's a black variant as well that you can get here in Australia. I believe there's a third color variant that you can get overseas as well. Now the black variant I've spotted going for a recommended retail price of $19.99 here in Australia, whereas this titanium model goes for $17.99. That's recommended retail price. So obviously you can get some sales and some deals on that. Now in terms of, so it might not be that price, you might be able to get it for a little bit cheaper. In fact, this particular weekend happens to be Black Friday. I saw it for $14.99. So there are deals to be had if you look around. Now, $17.99 places it on, I would say is kind of the higher end of the mid-range for fully automatic coffee machines. So they definitely get a lot more expensive. You can have a look at my Dura J8 review that I did on the channel. That's well over $3,000 here in Australia. There are more expensive Delonghi automatic coffee machines that you can find as well. But you can also get them for a lot cheaper. Another one I reviewed is the Philips 5000 series, another great coffee machine. That's significantly cheaper than this as well. So in that fully automatic coffee machine space, there's a decent amount of options. And yeah, I'd say this is kind of on the upper side of what I claim is medium tier for what's out there in the market. So let's have a look at the specs. So we have a Conical burr grinder with 13 adjustment settings, 19 bar pump pressure, 2 litre water tank capacity, 300 gram bean capacity, and the grounds capacity can hold 14 cups. We've got a 3.5 inch TFT colour touchscreen. You can have the 4 user profiles. It's got a milk frother, which has adjustable milk foam, like how much it froths, as well as temperature. You've got a maximum cup height of 170 centimetres. Now dimension-wise, it's on the bigger side. You've got a height of 385 millimetres, a depth of 450 millimetres, and a width of 260 millimetres. And as I go into it, it takes up a bit of bench real estate. And weight-wise, it weighs in 11.3 kilograms. It's also on the higher side. So it's got integrated cleaning functions, so it's automatically kind of cleans itself, but also the components can be pulled out and are dishwasher safe, which is great. You've got bean adapt technology, which is pretty awesome. So it automatically adapts the grind, dose and brewing temperature for optimal flavor extraction based on how it adapts to the beans that you put in there. And you can kind of go into the app, and because it is Wi-Fi connected, this device as well, and basically play around with the bean adapt and kind of get it really fine-tuned into the type of coffee that you're putting in the machine, which is quite cool. So one of the great things about this particular device is it does hot and cold. So you've got hot and cold technology, and it comes with 2 different milk frothing accessories. So one does hot, one does cool. And this opens it up to 50 presets, or more than 50 preset options that are available to you. Now, I don't know how they got to 50. I can't find 50, but there's a lot. So it's got that cold extraction technology. It can make your cold brew in under 5 minutes. It's got plenty of customization options as well, including the coffee temperature, strength, and size, as well as being able to go into the app and find recipes and even kind of create your own types of brews through the app. All right, so let's get into the design of the device itself. And as you can see, it's a classic looking coffee machine. So, it's not ugly to look at. It's perfectly fine, but it isn't particularly sexy or contemporary like what we saw with the Eletta. Now it is, as you can probably see, quite a bulky device, and it does take up a lot of space on your bench. So that's something to consider. So it's just solid. It's really big and heavy at 11.3 kilograms. Not that you should be moving it around a lot, but just in terms of where you want to put it in your house, it's something to consider. You're definitely going to get smaller machines than this. I do really like that the front facing section here is actually angled, which wasn't the case on the Rivalia, but basically what this allows you to do is see what's going on from kind of front on, as opposed to trying to get your head over it, which can be a problem if you've got it sitting underneath, for example, cabinetry. Now, you've got, the UI is a treat. It works so smooth. You've got your profiles up here. You choose whatever your profile is. It's easy to go through what you want. It prioritizes your favorites. You do have a favorite button right here. You've got hot drinks, cold drinks, and you've got to go. Now, to go is a really cool design feature. And as you can see over here, I've brought with me, or put by the side here, a couple of the accessories which come with it. So it does come with quite a few bits and pieces, including an ice tray, which is obviously for your cold brews. But it does come with this travel mug. And this is where it excels over a lot of the other entries in the space, because you can lift up this front like so and get, if I can just get this open, a travel mug under it. So this is the to-go function that they talk about. So it allows you basically to use a travel mug out of the gate, and I love that feature. That's really handy for me. It's going to be really handy for most commuters because most devices can only fit your standard coffee cup under it. So I think that's great, and it's actually really cool that they also went to the effort of actually providing you with a coffee cup to go with your purchase. I think that's great. Now, if you see my Rivalia review, you'll know that at the time that I did it, I wasn't awfully enamored with the size of the milk frother. I thought, well, it just seems to be too big and too bulky for what you actually need. Like that's a decent sized amount of milk in there for a decent sized coffee, and it's not much. There's a lot of space. Obviously, if you're doing like a whole bunch of hot chocolates or something like that, you might end up putting a lot of milk in there. But the reality is I've come to actually be quite fond of it. I actually quite like the size now, and we just end up storing it in the fridge like that, but it doesn't hold very long in the fridge. You might get a day out of it, and it'll start to turn a lot quicker than it will in a milk bottle. But it balances well. It doesn't get lost in the fridge. It kind of jams in with your milk pretty good. So I'm actually kind of into it now, especially with the way that the functions work on top, allowing you to switch this dial up here. If you want to come have a quick look, I'll show you. You can just switch between different kind of, anywhere between this area here to different froth, and that's on full froth there. And if you go all the way up to the top, it'll activate a self-cleaning thing, which I'll show you in a sec, because I'm going to make a coffee and show it to you in its detail in a second. Now, only the single hopper with this particular device, and it's a very kind of, I guess what you'd say, standard. It's very similar to what we saw in the Philips 5000 series, and it just 5400 series. Anyway, the Philips alternative. It's not really sealed perfectly. It's a little bit flimsy. It's a bit awkward to get on and off. It's not like screwed in tight like we've seen in previous devices. So that's something potentially they could work on in the future, just making that a little bit more, so you just know the coffee's just perfectly sealed in there. In terms of accessing everything, getting stuff in and out, everything just slides in and out really easily, like so. You can pull this in and out. Like I said, it's all dishwasher safe, so you can pull this apart. It's a bit of a process, but you get used to it, and put it in the dishwasher, just wash it by hand. And then the trip tray just comes out like so, and off you go. Now, there is something I don't like about this drip tray, and I think it's an area where they definitely could have done better, is that there's your grounds, so ignoring that, all your water falls into these two sections here, but there's no actual little funnel or tipping point. So when it fills up with water, and you go to, here, come over here, I might as well just show you. When you go to pour out into the sink, it kind of just, you can imagine that it's full. Well, not imagine, let's do it. Because there's no tipping point, it just kind of, you can see, just kind of falls over itself and just gets wet every single time. And if it just had a little groove or a little spout or something like that, which I have seen on other models and competitors, then there would just be a lot nicer process. So that is something I would have liked to have seen in the design. But as you'll see here, like you can pretty much just one hand that back in. I'm gonna stuff this up now because I need to pressure approach it from the side, but it's pretty straightforward to put that in and out. Did that in the wrong order. Anyway. Right, there we go. Now, interestingly, it does come with a second, as I mentioned, a second one of these. This is for the cold brews. Now, I don't know what the difference is. I don't know what's inside that's making this one work for cold and this one work for hot, but they have two separate, I guess you call it carafe. And this is a bit of unfortunate. It'd be nice if you could just use the one, because you've got this whole other device you've got to store and clean and maintain and switch between, especially if, for example, quite frequently I'd like to have a hot coffee, my wife would like to have a cold coffee. So we've got milks, kind of two milks going on the go. So yeah, I'm not sure what the tech reason is for that. Like there might just be no way around it. But interestingly, you can just put this into other Delonghi devices. So if, like with the Rivalia, I can just stick this in the Rivalia and all of a sudden cold brews open up. So it's this that's doing it. Not so much the machine, from what I can tell. A couple of other quick things to note. You can use ground coffee, so you can put ground coffee directly into there if you don't want to use the beans. But there's no other storage compartments. So other than just sitting these here, which is fine, but they won't be hidden out of sight. And also, the water filter did not last a particularly long time for me. So I think it lasted about 200 coffees, a couple of months maybe. And then it asked me to replace it. So I wasn't too stoked about that. So I don't know if I just got unlucky with the one that came in the box, or whether that's a good expectation for a period of lasting, but yeah, it seemed like it should last longer to me. Now, as mentioned, there is an app, and the app experience is pretty solid. Like it's a decently made app. It's got a lot of depth in there. You can go in and find some really remarkable looking recipes if you really want to go in and experiment with stuff. There's a whole bunch of kind of supplementary information you can dive into. You can kind of get the machine to work from the app. If you wanted to sit on your couch or something and everything's already ready to go, you can do that. So it's nice to have it, and it's definitely added value. But there was one thing about it that really did annoy me, and that is when you're going through the sign-up process and kind of registering your account. There's a part where you've got to tick that you're accepting the privacy policy, but they've actually put into that also accepting the marketing material and marketing emails. So they haven't separated privacy policy and the marketing material. So when you're forced to sign up to it, otherwise you can't move forward. So I'm disappointed by that because I hate signing up for marketing emails. All right, so let's get into the most important part, the performance and the taste of the coffee. Now I'm gonna make a coffee and talk you through a little bit about the pros and cons of the way this performs. Now I wanna say overridingly, fantastic coffee. And there isn't a massive difference between, or I can't even tell if there's a difference between a coffee that this produces and some of the less expensive models such as the Rivalia. However, obviously something like that doesn't have the cold brew. And so that's where things step up. And it does a really good hot brew, but it does a really good cold brew as well. They're actually, I hadn't really had much experience doing that before, and I was surprised by the results. It does a really good iced coffee, and you can really experiment on the cold brew side of things with some really interesting flavors and some treats. So yeah, it does an outstanding job. The milk frother is excellent. It does a really, really good job. You're gonna see that in action in a second. So really happy with that. And like I mentioned before, the UI and everything is great. So, for that pure processing experience of pressing a button and having a fully automatically generated coffee where it's grinding it, it's producing the milk, it's getting it all the temperature, and it's all what you want, and then putting it into a cup that you can go and take away with you on the go or at home, it's really, really good. But it does have issues as well. Now, some of the things that I'm not liking about this machine, other than kind of that bulk that I was telling you about before, is that it's got bigger capacities. So we've got like 2 liters of water here, and we've got the 14 grams and we've got the 300 grams up here. So that's kind of the capacity things. But the water in particular just runs out really quick. And it seems to just have a lot of waste. It's like, so I got this little cup that kind of sits around to just accept when it's just dropping water out, when it's getting prepared, when it's cleaning, things like that. And it just puts so much water out. And as a result, not only does this fill up a lot because you don't have this there at the right time, and so it goes into to here and fills up the water. This is just running out. And for one of the things for me is having an automatic coffee machine is that you just press that button and you go, or in a case of this, you just press the button on the app and it appears for you. But I find myself so frequently having to refill up the water. And also the grounds to a lesser extent. And the grounds also get very humid. So they get moldy in there as well, which I haven't really come across. And I don't know if that's just because they're staying in here a little bit longer because there's 14 of them and not 10 or a lesser amount, or because of some way that the machine's ecosystem works, it just kind of gets a bit humid in there and it just attracts a bit of mold in the actual beans, but in the actual grounds. But yeah, so that's one of the things that I'm not too happy about. I'm not too happy about how quickly it goes through water because it just wastes so much all the time doing its things. But also, it's a bit loud. These machines are always going to be loud. It's a bit loud even by these machine standards. And it takes a long time to get going. And like I recently reviewed the Dura J8 and like that's a $3,300 automatic coffee machine. So a lot more than this. You'd expect it to be a lot better as a result. But one of the things that really struck me with that was just how quickly it goes from pushing a button to you having a coffee. It's really quick, whereas this one, as you're about to see, will take a bit of a process. Now I just did have it on, so it might have already warmed itself up. But we're going to go through the whole entire process and you can see how it goes. But like I said, and I'm going to reiterate this, at the end of the day, the coffee's great. But we're talking here about, the little differences and little subtleties that might make you decide between whether this is right for you or another machine. So, we power on. Now, it's got the My settings that we've seen in other Delonghis as well before. And basically what that allows you to do is customize the amount of milk, the amount of water, bits and pieces like that and temperature. So I've got all mine already preset to exactly what I like from my favorite cup, which is the one I've got here. So you can see how much water that's dropping out. That's just to get the temperature. That's exactly what I was talking about. And that's just step one of that. So look, it's already almost filled that cup up. Right, so this is on so I've just, all I do here is I choose profile 2, which is me. My wife is profile 1, of course, always number 1. And I can either just press what I've got there, which is my preset, or I can go into the plus menu here and go through and experiment. Now the way this works basically is you set it all up to what you think is going to be right, you run it, and then it gives you the option to save or not. And then so it's a bit of a process just getting it exactly where you want it, but this is exactly where I want it, so I'm not going to change anything. And it's literally a case of just tapping this, or in the app, pressing the button in the app. Now, obviously I've got to add the milk. So the milk just comes in, super simple, in she goes, and she's ready to go. You set your froth to whatever you want. I've got it set on the highest froth because I love it. And off she's going to go. You can obviously tilt this in different ways, depending on, it goes up and down. This goes up and down, depending on what size cup you've got, to minimize kind of splashback or anything like that, although I've never really seen it. And then we just press the button. So one of the things that really does annoy me a bit with the My setting is that it doesn't work in mils. So you just kind of want to, you know how many mils of that you want in there. And I wish you could just set it in mils, but you can't. And that's why the trial and error happens. So it'd be nice if you do just set the mils. But if you have a look at this coming out now, it's going to come out such a beautiful caramelly colour. I can't remember what beans I've got in there at the moment, actually. Actually, I've got a scary feeling it could be Audi beans. But, there's an aroma function, so we're getting this nice kind of wafting breeze coming up now, and I've got it set on a lot of water, so it's got it right thinning out. You can see just towards the end. It's just like a big cup in the morning. And I'm going to add a lot of milk to kind of buffer it out. So I'm letting it have a good run, but you can see the colour definitely fades towards the end there, but it's not too bad. And the other thing that the My system that allows you to customise your own cups, like it's great to an extent, but like I said, the mils, not having it in mils makes it a bit unnecessarily challenging. But also with this particular device, I know the extra shot function is just not quite the same as it was with the Rivalia, where you can just press extra shot and it does a proper extra shot. Here, you're more likely to go in and do just an espresso shot on top of your existing coffee. It's still certainly a lot quieter than doing it manually, isn't it? And I'm doing my cup here so I can just show you how you can customize it and set it so it specifically goes to the needs for you, which for me is this cup. Right, I had that down to show you before. Look at that. Perfection. And that is a beautiful looking coffee. And a beautiful tasting coffee. I've got it at my perfect temperature as well, so I can get stuck straight into it. Now, what we do is flick that over onto clean, self-clean, and it's going to run through to a cleaning process. And there we go, and then that's just clean that for us, and then you can put it in the sink, or so I put it in the fridge if there's still milk in it, or otherwise deal with it. Now I want to show you how much is in there, and when it shuts itself down as well, so you can set how long it will stay on for. Mine set to 15 minutes, and 15 minutes from now, if you don't use it again, it'll turn itself off and it'll rinse through this and dump even more water. So that's what I was talking about, how much water it goes through that aren't coffees. So that's, I mean, it's like a small thing, right? But I just find it really annoying that I'm always kind of like, damn it, more water, damn it, more water. But there you go. Like I said, it's a small detail in truth, because at the end of the day, the coffee is fantastic. So there you go, guys. Those are my thoughts on the Delonghi Eletta Explore fully automatic coffee machine that you can see right here. Look, it makes great coffee. That's the most important thing. And I think if you're the type of person that's really going to specifically use cold brew technology, and also the cold extraction technology, and also that taller travel mug position that you can get on this, if those are two things that are really going to be a big use case for you, and I definitely am happy to recommend going with this particular device, because it hits those two things really well, and it gives you everything else that you can get from other models. And plus there's other bonuses obviously as well, for example with the app support, but those are the two features I think help it really stand out. If those two features aren't a big thing for you, if you're like not interested in having cold coffee, and I'm not ever using travel mugs, if those are two things that aren't of a big appeal to you, then I think you're better off probably rolling back to the Rivalia, which does coffee that's just as good, does coffee that's just as good, but is focused more in on that hot coffee experience, and will save you up to $500 off the asking price. So that's where I stand on this particular device. I think that it's feature rich, and it's got a lot of flexibility and a lot of customization, but the expense of that comes in a bigger footprint and a heavier machine, and a little bit of lack of elegance in just some of the design parts. For example, with this flimsy top, the inability to pour this out nicely, and also that kind of self-maintenance stuff where it really just pull a lot of water out of the system that doesn't go into your coffee cup. All right. That's my review of the Delonghi. That is my review of the Delonghi Eletta Explore fully automatic coffee machine. Thank you very much for watching. Make sure you check out the other videos. I'm also going to do a comparison video specifically between this and the Rivalia for people who are umming and ahhing about those. Just dive into that a little bit deeper. But until next time, I'm going to go back and enjoy my coffee, and I'll check you later. You!